In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Core's font editor to edit an existing font or create a new font. I have to create a font, or actually I'm in the middle of creating a new font for a customer, so I'm going to start you off showing you how to digitize a font. We'll cover the editing of a font in a later video. So first thing first, I click Tools and then Font Editor. I'm going to choose the font that I'm working on. The font that I'm working on is called Apache, so it is right here, and click OK. It asks me if I want to overwrite the existing characters. You would normally say no. You only say yes if you want to revert a font that you're editing back to the state it was before you edited any characters. So here's the font. As you can see, I've done the A through M, and now I'm going to do the N. Okay, so this is the letter N, and since I started out with a true type font, I have all the characters in here for that font that I may want to create. You don't need to create additional artwork. Let's use the satin tool. I'm going to zoom in right here. Now, you can use branching, or you can use whatever method you want to create the font. You can mix and match running stitches, things like that. You cannot use manual stitches, and you cannot use steel. So now I have this outline, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to draw my stitch angle. That's all I need. I could put multiple angles if I'd like. I'm going to right click again to say I'm finished. The mouse cursor changes to green. This is where I want my block to start stitching from, and then red, and this is where I want it to end from. Now, yes, I could have branched this, but for the sake of this video, I was just going to show you how we would create it without having to branch. So now I'm going to place my first point again on this line, this line. Now, if I want to branch, in other words, if I want to continue inputting this thing, I just hit the letter N on the keyboard for new branch. It will cease making this branch and release my mouse. You see? And then I can continue on. I'm panning in and out using a technique that's in Core, where you can place your mouse anywhere on the screen. You can use the scroll wheel to go in or out. But if you want to, let's say you're scrolled in like this, but you want to be here, you want this to be, if you hold the control key down and you scroll the wheel up, it zooms in upon that point. Scroll out and scroll in. It makes it pretty fast to get around on the screen that way. You can also use traditional methods. You can use the Navigator. You can use many other things. Right click and stitch angles. You can mix and match your angles. It does, as long as it's crossing the proper lines. Core doesn't really care. Right click, start from here and from here. And you can see the branching has occurred. Now, I want to end in this area because this is where my lowercase is obviously going to connect. I could create this as two branches, but if I want to have a little bit more control, I can go ahead and make my running stitch up. And then I'm going to show you, this is the Navigator. If you bring this up, you can move around on the screen with this also. So if I zoom in, you see, I can position it where I want. Any way that you want to do that is up to you. All are equally versatile. This is the more traditional classic satin approach. These are interchangeable, these two tools. If you prefer making your points like this. It really depends on the shape. Normally, if I have a rounded edge shape, I prefer using this tool because it's easier to make those type of I don't need so many points. And I know some of you may be wondering why I'm dropping these points down here. It's to provide the overlap so that we don't get a gap when this sews. And stitch angle, start and end. Also, if you're doing this yourself, when you end, you don't want to end right here. You want to end about right here. The reason being is you might get an extra tiny little movement from your machine when you do that. So if you end in the middle, it'll create a little step out, which is going to provide a nicer connection. Now, if I want to force this to be a hard corner point, because I'm going to make another point, I don't want it to bow out, I hold down the control key and click. As you can see, I have a little bit of a bubble out here. I can just grab that line and pull it in just like that. This character's finished. I simply hit save and I move on to the next character, the O. In this case, I'm going to use I don't need to do a routing stitch or anything. I'm going to use the classic satin tool. I'm going to place my first point. And I'm not really paying too close attention to this. If you want to close this shape, press the C key on your keyboard and it closes. A quicker way to define a simple shape without branches like this is you can use the convert to satin, and it makes a nice representation of it. And just hit save. I prefer not to use convert with multiple branches because it can get tricky. And then you move on to the next letter. And that's pretty much how you make the keyboard font. You can test it anytime, but just starting. You need to hit save in order for all these new characters to appear in the actual font. And then we're going to use this to type and say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And this font is Apache. There you have it, your new keyboard font.